I feel like you're trying to force the circle into the square slot, and it's a fucking circle, guys. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Blue Jays Today, where we always have something to say about the Toronto Blue Jays, except not today. I'm your host, Nicholas Blaylock.
I'm your host, Adam Peddle. We got to think of a new intro when we're talking about other teams.
Yeah, it's not really, it's not really panning out.
No, it doesn't really fit.
I'm just like, we're talking about the Jays, but we're actually not.
We're not today. Sorry, we just totally lied.
Yeah.
We are going to be talking about the AL East, the AL Central, and what their off-season outlook is going to be. Who are they going to sign? Where are they kind of at in terms of their rebuild or buy stage? We're going to talk about it. But before we do, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit that post notification bell button to stay up to date. All right, so we want to start with the best team, obviously, the Chicago White Sox. So, Nick, tell me a little about what you think the Chicago White Sox, where their direction's going.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had a pretty great year. I mean, 93-69. Nice. I think that their offense would rank like 7th based on OPS and 5th in regards to ERA. So just across the board, like a very solid team. The way that they got out, it was a little bit disappointing, I think, for White Sox fans, because you looked at that team, you had your former MVP on there, Jose Abreu, you have so many nice pieces, and it felt like they really could go deep. Now, I will say one big thing, and, you know, it's like I kind of take this for granted when I'm thinking about the White Sox, but, like, Jimenez and Robert, like literally like supposed to be their two up and coming like best dudes. We barely saw them last year.
Yeah, they were hurt. They were hurt a lot, and they're signed to long deals. They are going to be the core, and that actually brings me to this: is like Chicago White Sox has built a really nice team to be competitive for a while here. You know, their payroll plus taxes and everything is $174 million. So you know they have a little bit of room to still work with, but a lot of that payroll is going to be there for some time.
Yeah,
right?
I agree, dude, and they have a lot of their core locked down. One guy who I think that the White Sox, you're going to hear a lot of rumblings about this. They have to go out and get this done. He was a stud for them last year, came out of almost nowhere. It's Carlos Rodon. He is a free agent. If he has any liking of the Chicago team, maybe you can get that guy in a little bit of a discount, but I do think like he was massive for their team last year. I think that is a big name that they have to go after.
You know, apparently according to Sport Rock, which looks at contracts and estimates people's values based on their age, based on what they did in their career, he's estimated at $24 million a year, which is a lot of money. However, they have an option, a club option for Craig Kimbrell, who was not as good in the second half and the first half. And he's getting paid $16 million. So if they use that club option and they get rid of him, then yeah, you do have some money, because if you don't, then you're at $200 million now. You're getting close to luxury tax.
And that's, you know what I mean? I think that's why they have to cut him loose, guys. Like, I know that Craig Kimbrell, we think about it, we're like, wow, this is one of the best closers in the league. Like, could be, you know, Hall of Fame closer for God's sakes. But it's just like they're thinking, and I heard this from a White Sox thing that I was reading. It's like they're thinking of picking it up and then trying to trade him. And I just don't think that makes any sense, because it's like that just doesn't add up to me.
He has to be really good, though.
He has to be incredible, and then it's like, why would you trade him anyways? I think that $16 million. It's like, if you're gonna spend $16 million on a closer, then that better be the goddamn best fucking closer in the whole league.
Liam Hendricks.
Yes, like you have to make sure, and I'm not 100% sure. So I do think they gotta cut that option out, take that $16 million, and potentially throw it at a guy like Carlos Rodon.
I agree. I agree. Getting him down would be really good. You also got to consider Lucas Giolito in the future. He is arbitration. He's gonna want like something like, you know, 20 plus a million a year. So it's gonna be a balance of how much left can we balance with that last bit of flex spot. So there's little rooms. You can bring Rodon back. If you don't, and I said if you don't bring him, you lose him to free agency. You're like, maybe 24 million is a little too much for a guy who came out of nowhere, right? And you could go get some like shorter term veteran guys to bridge you over to that Giolito extension. Wait for some of the younger guys to develop a little more, like Dylan Cease. You know, you could go get like a Zach Greinke or a I'm gonna butcher his name.
DeSclafani.
Visclafani. That's not a bad option.
Not at all.
You know?
Not at all.
Get him.
I think also too a Kevin Gausman would be something very interesting.
Great.
And this is also a team as well that I would not be shocked if I heard rumblings like we're interested in Max Scherzer, assuming Carlos Rodon's not in on it, or even a Robbie Ray. Like they're gonna have a long window. We're assuming that Robbie Ray could be good for a while.
Yeah.
I think he'd work well here.
Yeah.
I also know that White Sox fans, and they do need to address this problem because Nick Madrigal is no longer kind of a thing with them. They got to do something about the second base spot on that team.
Right.
And frankly, what I would do is I would invest the majority of my money in pitching, and then I would try to get a sneaky under the radar sort of second baseman. I don't think you need, assuming that Robert and Jimenez are healthy, I don't think you need like a massive $20 million bat
you don't.
there.
You don't. I mean, they do have Cesar Hernandez, who also has a club option. So like that's a little sneaky too.
They could pick that up. They could pick that up. I think it was like $6 million for him.
And that's cheap. That's cheap. You know what I mean? So they have options. Yeah, you might go out and get like a Andrelton Simmons, even, you know, something like that.
Yes,
potentially.
yes,
right.
Yes.
So those are a lot of options that we have for those guys. Anything else that you kind of have for them?
I think that that's the main thing. I think it's like you got to be willing to spend. I think that we're going to hear them in a lot of the like starting pitcher conversations. I also did hear some rumblings about the White Sox fans being interested in getting like another right fielder. Kyle Schwarber was a name being thrown around. And I hear that. And if you're capable of swinging it, like go after it, man. I don't know where I put that in the totem pole of like priority for me.
Because you have Jimenez and Robert, and like you do have like nicer guys like Adam Engel is like really cheap, you know. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like you could be okay there.
I think priority one, get the pitching, hopefully Rodon. If you don't do that, go out, get like a nice juicy vet like a Robbie Ray or a Gausman. Then maybe look into that second base spot and make sure that you're saving some money when Lucas Giolito needs it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Moving on to our next team. Our next team, we have these guys. They have a new name. They were the Cleveland Indians, and now some websites have started calling them the Cleveland Guardians. Because it's time to move over. That's our next team, who is second in the AL Central. Well, we're going to talk about what they have going on for this offseason. So what do you have for them right off the top?
Well, frankly, the Cleveland Guardians, I don't know how well they are going to be guarding that second place spot.
It's hard.
And I think when I'm looking at this team, and absolutely no disrespect to Guardian fans. Wow, Guardian fans. That's
I know, right? So different.
Guardian fans whatsoever. I think we gotta face facts here, folks. We gotta face facts. And the facts aren't nice. They're not looking good. I think that these guys, in my opinion, and there's been so many rumblings about like this trade, I think that honestly maybe the right move is trading away your biggest piece while the value is still major and you will still get the bag for him. 2 years left on Jose Ramirez. I feel like they're going to be wasted here. And I think that they would be far better spent on a serious contending ball club, and you guys pick up like 3 to 4 juicy prospects.
100%. Because when you look at their team payroll, taxes, everything, they come out to about $60.7 million. That is ridiculous. That is so low.
It's so low.
That is ridiculous. I think that's the lowest in the AL Central. So you really have to get some more prospects in there, because you do have a few young guys, but they haven't really proved it. Like you have Cal Quantrill is pretty interesting. Josh Naylor, Franmil Reyes is coming up on some arbitration.
We like Franmil Reyes.
Like him. Shane Bieber is coming back from his injury. So you have some guys, but it's not enough to be competitive. They have one guy that's really interesting. Speaking of Josh Naylor, his brother, Bo Naylor.
Really?
Yeah, is in the prospect system.
Actually. Yeah, I think I heard about that.
He's their number 4 prospect, and he's a catcher. Okay. Now, they just lost Wilson Ramos, right? So they're going to bring up probably Bo Naylor.
That's sick.
But here's my idea, okay? So you're going to be going through a rebuild for a little bit here, right? If you trade away J-Ram. If you don't trade away J-Ram, you're still going through a rebuild.
And that's why I think they have to trade away J-Ram.
And they should. Okay, so let's assume that they're trading away J-Ram, right? Now it's rebuild phase. What do I want as a general manager? Obviously, clearly you can tell. What do I want? I want veteran guys on short deals to bridge me over, stay somewhat competitive, and teach the young guys how to play MLB baseball.
Yes.
I think they should go out and sign Yan Gomes. They have so much money. He's the most expensive catcher. He's going to get $7.69 million for 2 years. Go sign him.
what?
Teach Bo Naylor how to catch.
And actually, yeah, like that does
know?
make a lot of sense, dude, because I didn't put names to it, but I was thinking the exact same thing about you got to go out, pick up a few dudes who are like, aging veterans who can teach the boys how to play baseball to a elite level. And then, also maybe have just enough upside that if the trade deadline rolls around and it's like, oh, like here's fucking Yan Gomes popping off right now. Maybe someone needs him.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing, with so much cap space, like, I have this name. We said it in a previous team, but if you go out and sign Zach Greinke, for example, you overpay for him. But if you agree when you trade him at deadline, we'll pay for the rest of his salary because we have so much money.
Just give me some prospects.
Yeah, and just give me some prospects. He's good. He'll help you win if he's healthy. If he's healthy next year, go out and bring in some vets like Tommy Pham, Corey Dickerson. Bring in these guys. Just help teach and rebuild.
Yes, I agree, dude. I agree. Step one, you got to go trade J-Ram, and especially too because it's like his value will never be higher than it is right now. He's coming off of like another, like the fourth year in a row of like all-star, like really great stuff. He's doing it all by himself, and he still has 2 cheap years for a player of that caliber. So it's actually impossible for his value to be any higher. So trade him at the ceiling of it is right now, and then just go out, get some dudes, spend your money, use that, use the money,
use it to your advantage, and time to rebuild, Guardians. New team, literally new team, new name, new everything, baby. Let's go.
New everything.
All right, moving on. We have the third place team. Shockingly, the third place team in the AL Central, the Detroit Tigers. Is it shocking to you or what? What are your thoughts?
I feel like everybody is slowly coming to terms with the fact that the Detroit Tigers are going to be a baseball team again. It's like there was a decent amount of years there where it was like, oh, it's the Detroit Tigers. Like that is a guaranteed dub. But now we're kind of getting to the end of that, I think. And now we got to start looking at the Detroit Tigers like, okay, this is a baseball team, and if I don't come prepared, they're going to pick up some dubs on me, dude. This is a really interesting team for me because they have so many good prospects. So many good prospects. Like maybe arguably the best prospect system in the league.
Would agree.
2 of them are in the top 10. And that's Spencer Torkelson and Riley Green, dude. And that's like just incredible. And both of them are going to be ready to go this coming year.
I love it. So for me, right, what I want to see from a Detroit offseason, first of all, bring the dudes up. But this reminds me a lot of the 2019 Blue Jays. And for those who aren't familiar, we knew that Bo Bichette was coming, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was coming, and you got Cavan Biggio coming. Those were the guys in 2019. So we didn't go out and spend and buy a bunch of dudes, right? They kind of bought safe. They bought smart. They wanted to see if they could hit first. They're rarely highly touted, but you got to make sure that they're good. And they were. And what they do in the following years, they bought Ryu, they bought Springer. Then they started bringing in the guys. So for me, it's going to be some safe buys. Now, I know you have a little bit of you heard something on the streets.
I mean, I've been
instead of safe buys.
Yeah, I've been hearing rumblings from the management. And these guys, too, we should note, like, I believe that they have roughly, like, a little bit over $100 million to spend.
It's a lot.
Like, they got money to spend, guys. And literally the only guy who's getting paid on this team is Miguel Cabrera, and it's like $32 million. But then after that, it's like nobody is higher than 10 or something like that. So he's the only one making any money on this team. So they got money. And I heard that the Detroit management, they want to make splashes. They want to go spend. They feel like they have guys. And at first when I read that, I was kind of taken aback a little bit. And I was like, I'm not sure about this. I think you could be jumping the gun. And I still think that a little bit. A little bit, yeah. Who are the guys that they were bringing up? They're talking about some of the big shortstops. And when I put that in perspective, if it is a Corey Seager or if it is a Carlos Correa, that starts to make more sense to me, because then you get an absolute stud in the middle of your infield, and what on a deal that I would assume would be something like an 8-year sort of contract.
They're still very young, and they're not going to decline anytime soon.
Exactly. You're going to have these guys at their age 28 year, playing for you for maybe 8 years, and then that can kind of be the cornerstone of guaranteed elite. And then you bring in Torkelson, you bring in Green, you have Casey Mize popping off, you got Grossman doing stuff.
So Candelario sneaky good. You know what I mean?
Literally. And then all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, holy crap. Yeah. There are the Detroit Tigers.
And this is what I want to compare them to. I want to make another comparison, guys, is they could be like a San Diego Padres as well, right? When they brought over Manny Machado, right? They didn't, and to me, being a little bit more casual, not really at the time, and not really understanding I knew they had prospects coming, but they weren't there yet.
Right.
They bring in Machado, the prospects come up, they learn, they play, and they're competitive and they're good. So I actually like that, because there's no middle infielder that's really a stud there. You got Torkelson, who plays the corner bags. Then you got Riley Green in the outfield. Maybe Fulmer's good, Candelario's good, Goodrum's good. You got some guys. Yeah. So I like that move. However, for me, I got to see it happen first, right? That's why earlier I compared it to 2019 Blue Jays. Like, yeah, you could have these guys, but just make sure it's there, because if it is a big bust, then you're stuck with a contract. However, I do want to lean more towards I don't think it's going to bust because of how highly touted they are.
Yeah,
so I'm down for it. I want to surprise me, but I think they should also, if they're going to do that, buy some guys in their pitching rotation.
Yes,
like
that's
Bundy,
also important.
Lyles,
that's also important.
Shoot Pineda, make them competitive.
Yeah, definitely
right?
throw some darts on some pitchers that aren't going to be like the crazy expensive pitchers, right? Because you're growing pitchers. You have pitchers growing, and that's really important. You gotta we understand what it is to grow the pitchers. That's something that it's kind of harder to buy.
Yeah.
But for me, it's got to be either Corey Seager or Carlos Correa, maybe Trevor Story. I don't want to see you guys going out and buying a Marcus Semien or even a Freddie Freeman, because I think that they're just a little bit too old for what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
But Corey Seager at 27, if you bring him in, then that just works so perfectly, I think, with the timeline of what you're doing.
Because also in 2024, the only person in 2024 when they should start to get like, okay, we're competitive, right? The only person on the payroll is Miguel Cabrera, and they have a mutual option. So if Miguel wants to hang it up, he can. And then they have literally nobody.
Yes.
So bringing somebody in, you could really overpay for a Carlos Correa.
Absolutely,
or a Corey Seager.
and also show them too. It's like, hey guys, we got all these elites. Like, it's about to get really good here in Detroit.
That is the one thing. It's like, how do you convince them, right? You really, because
you gotta like sell it.
Yeah, because it's easier. It was easier to convince George Springer when we won over 500 games, or excuse me, over 500.
Well,
right?
Here's an extra $3 million. Are you convinced?
Yeah,
That's always the end of the day. Like, that's how you get it done.
We overpay for an older, aging Ryu. It's like, you do got to overpay. You do got to do that.
So you know what? Either go get one of those guys or play it safe. Either one, you guys have options.
Let's go. All right, next team. Fourth place team in the division. This team, when it started in 2021, when they started their season, I had a little bit of hopes, because they went out and they got a bunch of just average guys, maybe on the decline a little bit, average on the decline. Talking about the Kansas City Royals right here, folks.
Yes.
And they obviously did not do well at all, and they sold at the deadline. What are your thoughts on the Kansas City Royals?
It definitely busted out, bro. The Royals, I mean, it's tough, because I honestly, a thought that I have, and Royal fans, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but from what I've heard, the ownership has talked to the manager and basically said, you have X amount of years to make a winning ball club. Okay, I understand. Like, you've set a deadline, you want results, but I don't think that that's the right way to go about this. I feel like you're trying to force the circle into the square slot, and it's a fucking circle, guys. We got to put it in the circle. But my analogy here is like, I think you got to start a little bit over here. You
do, because you really don't have, you really have to buy your team, because you really don't have the prospects. Like, you do have some. You have Bobby Witt.
Yes.
Right? You have Bobby Witt. He's really good, right? There's some other guys too. Kyle Isbell. But that's it. And like, yeah, you really have Benintendi. He's just like, okay, you know, how do you say his name? Alberto Mondesi.
Alberto
Mondesi. Like, you gotta hope he hits too. And you have Whit Merrifield for 1 year and then a club option after that, and then obviously you have Perez. But it just didn't work last year. So for me, buying it just doesn't seem like it's working. So what would you suggest that the team has to do? And what do you think they should do this offseason?
Okay, well, I mean, I was reading an article on how they'll get to playoffs, and I'll go over that in a little bit. But I think that this team, they have right now, they got Carlos Santana and they got Mike Minor, and they got them on a bit of expensive deals, and both of them kind of sucked last year.
Yeah.
If there's any way to sell those guys for almost anything, I think that you should do that. Get rid of that money. Just get it done.
Try.
Just
give
go.
It your best shot.
If you can sell Santana, that'd be even better, because then it's like, at least for Minor, like you just need innings, and like maybe he can give them to you.
And then you have a spot for Nick Prato, who's also their second prospect.
Yes.
He's a first baseman.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They do have like 65, 66, and 67 in the top 100 are Kansas City Royal prospects.
Yeah.
Now they are getting ready to go soon. One of them is a pitcher, though, and I feel like this team needs to get more pitchers. So I think that some way they got to find a way to trade one of these dudes for like some pitching prospects. Now, I don't know who. I'm not sure what. Maybe Merrifield. I don't know.
Maybe Merrifield, dude.
If you're really going for the sell,
trade Merrifield.
It's like then he has actual value, and that would be a dude who, if you're looking for a second baseman, maybe like the White Sox, for instance, it's like
they would
I would love to have a Whit Merrifield here. Take our pitching prospects, and I do think that that's kind of important.
That's what they have to do, man. You got to sell him. Obviously, you can't sell Perez. You're not going to sell Perez.
Nor should you.
But
He's
that's
awesome.
But that's the thing. You only have like one dude you could really sell. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of other like valuable guys here.
Yeah, so for me, it's like call up the prospects, ship away anyone you can, see how they play. This offseason, play it safe. Grab someone like James Paxton or Rich Hill. Like, just bridge the gap. Because I don't think you're competitive, man.
Yeah, and
I'll be honest.
And that is the thing, right? And yeah, throw some darts on some guys like who maybe could be decent. And also throw some darts on some guys, like some cheaper guys that maybe come trade deadline, you can trade them, right?
Yeah,
you can pick up a few different prospects on some 1 year, 2 year deals, guys that you signed with the money that you have in the offseason.
Yeah, like exactly. Like, they have $105 million on their payroll right now, and like taxes and everything. And like, like throw some darts, sell them. But I feel like they're not going to do that. That's the problem.
No. And I think that I do think that is the misconception here from the ownership and the management, thinking that this team is in a win now state. Now, I want to say, because I was reading an article from a Kansas writer talking about what he thinks they need to do if they are going to make playoffs, and it's extensive.
Oh God, yeah.
He's saying they got to sign Starling Marte, so that's a big thing. That's going to cost money right there. They got to sign Marte. They got to put him in the outfield. They got to trade Santana and Minor. They have to pray that Alberto Mondesi and Hunter Dozier just both bounce back. They have to pray that Bobby Witt Jr. and their pitching prospect come up and also pretty much immediately
They're
hit.
immediately studs, which never happens.
They have to go after some rotational starters, some guys, like you said, like James Paxton, hope that he hits. And in all of that, they also got to hope that Perez is as good as he was. Benintendi's better. Like, Merrifield's better.
There's just too much, man.
It's so much.
Here's what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to sign some average pitchers like Davies, Paxton, Quintana, Hill. And then you know what? They might even go do this. They might. Okay, if they're like, you know what? Okay, we need to do more than last year. They're not going to pay up for the big guys. They're not going to do that. I don't think that's a possibility. They might go get someone like Thor. You know?
Hey,
they might.
And you know what? Actually, that would be great.
That would be great.
That would be great.
I mean?
If they got Thor on like a little prove it deal,
and then sell him.
And
if
then
he does
sell him. You know, if he does prove it, right? And Thor would probably like that because they'd probably give him more money than a contending team. And Thor's like, okay, I'll come prove it with you guys. You sell me to a playoff ball club come trade deadline. We're all good.
Yeah,
that would actually make a lot of sense. I think that does. Yeah, go get Thor.
Yeah, this is a confusing team, guys. Basically, we're saying sell it all, but they're probably not going to, and do some mediocre stuff.
Yes, yeah,
and lose more games. Oh boy. All right, last team on the list. The Minnesota Twins were very weird because coming into the season, they were a top 10 team for me. Absolutely. They were a top 10 team.
Yeah, they were lower top 10, but yeah.
Lower top 10. I thought they would have a chance to win the division, maybe win wild card, and they missed. They missed hard, and they sold. Really they sold Cruz. They sold Barrios to yours truly. And now they're at a stage where, like, what I'm hearing on the streets is they're ready to reload. They're ready to reload with some prospects, maybe re-up on some guys in free agency. What do you think they're going to do?
I mean, if that's what you're hearing, then I think that's probably what they're going to do.
Yep.
But I also think that that's sending me a lot of mixed messages because clearly, 3 months ago, whenever trade deadline was, they weren't feeling that way because they sold Cruz and more importantly for me, it's because they sold Barrios, and Barrios was your guy. He was your starter. You had him locked down for years after this, and he was really the dude who I was like, okay, like that guy is like good and like competitive and he should be your ace. Granted, they sold him. They did get 2 prospects from the Toronto Blue Jays who should be ready to go. So that could help them.
Yeah, that's it. Austin Martin, SWR. And they also have other prospects. Royce Lewis. I don't even know how to say this guy. Balazovic. Kirilov. They have him coming up. Like they have a lot of right-handed pitching prospects. They do have a lot of, but like you do got to hope that they hit. You know what I mean? So I feel like they're not there because, again, like you said, mixed messages and everything. However, this is what makes me think they're going to try and reload. You still have Byron Buxton, right, who, when healthy, which he never is, can be an MVP. You got Josh Donaldson, right? You got Miguel Sano on like a one more deal and then like a club option after that. Alex Colome, who knows what he's going to do.
Right,
and you have Jorge Polanco, who they signed back for a couple years.
Polanco's great. I like Polanco quite a bit. Yeah, and that's the thing. This is a really confusing team as well because the worst thing I think a management can do is be half in and half out. Yeah. Because that never works for anybody. You usually never win, and you usually never lose enough either to like convince you to not be half in and half out. So they have to decide right now. They have to choose. Are we going to get those bullets and fire them off and reload and pick up some? Because I do think that they need some starters.
Yes,
I think that they got to fire some shots at some starters if they're going to reload. Or if they are going to sell and ship things off and go, okay, we're definitely committing to what we were doing with Barrios. We are going to do the whole rebuild thing. Then you have some bullets in here as well. Whereas what we were talking about with the Kansas City Royals, they don't have that many good bullets. These guys actually do have some bullets. And you said his name. I mean, you wouldn't want to do it if you're a Twins fan, but Byron Buxton could definitely get a return if he starts the season off pretty healthy. Yeah,
and if there's because they tried to do a contract extension with him and it's not been going well so far. So if they can't, and it looks like they're not going to, sell that guy. But here's my outlook on the Twins this season. So go in. Right, you have pieces. Go in, bring up all your prospects, see how they do, and if you're not getting there, if you're just not there, if you're just losing, you're in the bottom of the division. Granted, this division is very bleak. It's just the Chicago White Sox, but you have to get wild card. If they're not working, sell. Right, sell Sano, sell Buxton if it's not working. Right, you could sell some pieces. You could sell Taylor Rogers. You could sell some dudes. They might. And you said starting pitching. They could go get a Thor. I mentioned that earlier. Kluber, Erod, John Gray. Like these are competitive dudes.
I think that needs to be their offseason outlook because I do agree with what you're saying. It feels like they don't want to go out and like ship it all before the season even starts. But if you walk in with where you are right now, I can guarantee you the exact same thing is going to happen this next year, and you're going to be finishing like bottom 2 in this division. So you have to go out, spend some money on some pitchers who have high upside, but it's also not going to totally break the bank for like a 5-year deal. Thor would be perfect for these guys because he does have that exact thing. Kluber would be good too. It's like all of those dudes are kind of where you need to be living. And then if they hit in the season, great, we're competitive. And then if not, do what I actually think you need to do and get rid of these guys. Hold on to like 1 or 2 veterans, maybe like a Donaldson, maybe hold on to Polanco, and then let those guys teach all of your prospects that you have from shipping off Buxton and Barrios and whatever guys you sign. And that's your team now.
Because post All-Star break, hitting Hitting was bad. So was pitching. Ranked 22nd in pitching, ranked 21st in hitting.
Yes, like, it's not
it was
good,
really bad. But the hitting I have more confidence in because there's actually dudes who have done it before, who can do it, and they got good hitting prospects coming up. It's just the pitching. So go out, get some pitching, see what they can do, and if you're competitive, like we said, get it done. If not, sell it all.
That's it. That's the offseason outlook for the Twins. And guys, that is also the offseason outlook for the entire AL Central. Please let us know in the comments down below what you thought about this and the teams. If we were right, if you are a fan of either one of these squads, let us know. I mean, you are probably much well-versed in it than we are. We did some research, but at the same point, it's like we're not as deep diving as you guys could be. I mean, we're going to be continuing this sort of vibe of podcast for all the other divisions. So who knows? Maybe we'll hop over to the NL Central now, or maybe we'll continue the AL. Let us know what you want to do there. But as always, just comment down below.
Guys, if you want to listen to us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Anchor Radio Public, and Breaker, those links are in the description, and you can. Also, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We're posting on there. Guys, today Jace is a code for Monkey Knife Fight and Manscaped, and use those codes to get discounts and deals that you saw throughout the entire video. And as well, guys, become a Patreon. It's $3 a month, and you can come on to our Wine on Wine, which we're having on Friday nights, and you can call into the show. And shout out and thank you to all of these already Patreons for giving their subscriptions to us. We really, really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching.
And go Jays, go!